And away we go. It is the Nightcap, brought to you by Galactic Fried Chicken, right here on BearcatJournal.com. As always, visit www.galacticfriedchicken.com. Download the app for Android, iPhone, everything Galactic. Wednesday through Sunday, lunch and dinner. Get down to see our good friends in Dayton, Kentucky. Tell them to pump it up. Save yourself 15% off the order, or go to the app and they will deliver right to your front door. Pretty much anywhere inside the 275 loop. Get chicken tenders, the dunkers, the great sides, or my favorite, just the phenomenal fried chicken. All right, Aaron, we got a lot to get to.
Yes.
We have to hurry because I have a sleepover happening with my daughter and three of her 12 and 13-year-old friends. They are taking the puppy at 11 o'clock at night for a walk around the neighborhood. I'm probably a terrible parent.
Nothing could go wrong.
Tomorrow, to calm everybody's nerves, tomorrow is election day in Kentucky. So they are off school tomorrow. It's not like I have to wake them up at 6 o'clock or 6:30 and get them ready for school in the morning. They will be here all day tomorrow. I will not be here for a portion of that.
Nothing could go wrong.
Because I'm going to go to Rheingeist tomorrow at 2 o'clock. There's a press conference at Rheingeist with special guest speakers, the CEO of Rheingeist and our good friend Brian Fox. I couldn't imagine what they could be announcing.
Weird.
But it's happening, so I'll be there. They will not be here taking care of themselves. There will be adult supervision. But let's get this show on the road. So first, before we get into what you want to talk about and we put you in the driver's seat, Cincinnati started the NCAA tournament today in Las Vegas. They are tied for 8th. They are one shot out of 5th place, which is what you have to finish in the top 5 to qualify for the finals, the NCAA championships. So they are one shot off of where they need to be. They had a little bit of a bumpy start this morning to their round. They got it back together. They pulled through and got themselves in contention. Ty Gingerich is tied for 7th. He shot a 66, which is a career best. Ryan Ford is at 19th at 68. So they're in a pretty good spot. They're right about where they need to be. They're in striking distance. They need to have a good final 2 days.
After not starting out so hot.
Yeah, they bounced back and had a really good back 9. So hopefully tomorrow they can get out and have a good front 9 and put themselves squarely in the mix going into the final round on Wednesday so that they can advance in this portion of the NCAA tournament. Good friend Doug Martin, friend of the program, friend of the network. Hopefully he can get his guys where they need to be. So that is the EUC specific portion of the show. And now you have been waiting for this all day. So I'm going to move you over here and go.
So FSU was the first of the
AAC Media Days. There was an AAC like AD meeting or what?
ACC.
Sorry. Yeah, ACC. There was some kind of media gathering today.
I didn't know that part of it.
Yes, that's where this all came from.
Okay. I just know the fun headlines that have really got me going. But FSU comes out yesterday, I believe, and essentially said that they were pissed that a directional school was making more than Florida State and Miami because that shouldn't happen. And and now we are in year 3, I believe, of the ACC deal that runs through the year 2036. 2036.
Yeah.
There are 7 schools: Clemson, FSU, Miami, North Carolina State, Virginia, and Virginia Tech being dubbed the Magnificent Seven. What? Trying to get out of their GOR 3 years into a 15-year deal because you're a bunch of idiots with no foresight.
Yeah.
And they've been surpassed in money. They don't know what the direction of the conference is going to be, especially since you have the Big 12, who just signed a deal, making more money than them. You have the Pac-12 that Lord knows what's going to happen with them.
Well, here's the real problem with the ACC, Aaron. The Big 12 went to market, made more money than them,
and will go again.
Signed a deal where they will go again and make more money than them again. Correct. Before the ACC goes to market. That's where the people in the ACC and these 7 schools specifically are looking at this situation and going, what are we doing here? What's happening?
But let's go back to when they signed that deal. It was a lucrative deal at the time where they were making far more money at the time than the Pac-12, than the American, than the Big 12. And now that whole deal, while you did make it and you got it lucrative because you signed it for 15 years, the networks know what they're doing. You fucked up.
Well, they also believe that starting their own network was going to be a boom for them over the next 15 years. Well, guess what? Nobody gives a shit about the ACC.
Why would you?
Right. Everybody looks at Big Ten Network and says, we should have been able to get that. Well, guess what? The Big Ten has an advantage that nobody else has. They have multiple, massive land grant institutions in heavily populated states that Wisconsin, Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan State, all of these eyes, Nebraska, Missouri, you name it.
Yeah.
There's a reason that the Big Ten is as lucrative as it is. The ACC is a lot like, if you go through those schools, there are a couple that fit what the Big Ten model is. But it is a minuscule number in comparison to the whole conference.
Well, you also have a lot of regional rivalries. And historic rivalries in the Big Ten by comparison. And of course, that's before you add UCLA, USC, and the Big Ten expanding to whatever they may end up getting from a Pac-12, if the Pac-12 dissolves, or if the ACC, if they can figure out a way out of this GOR.
That's what they're all looking for.
Some still think that the Big 12 may fall. I'm really struggling to believe there's a world currently where the Big 12 falls. But I digress.
So the Big 12 is in a situation where
I think they're in the driver's seat.
They're not in the driver's seat because there is still the fear that this goes to 2, that this becomes the SEC and the Big Ten, and everybody else is the minor leagues.
I think, though, this is my opinion, I think if you go to 2, unless they're going up to 30, 25 each, 24 each, something of that, I think you'll lose the attention of the nation.
So here's where the Big 12 is in solid ground, at least for now, because these things are cyclical. But the Big 12 has a bunch of schools with fan bases that genuinely care.
Correct.
We understand what this looks like because Cincinnati's coming from a situation where for a decade they were grouped with a bunch of schools with fan bases that were basically indifferent.
Sure.
We like our team, but we're not going to we don't like them like that.
We'll travel to a big bowl game, but we're not going to go.
Basically, let me run this by you. It just popped in my brain. A lot of the fan bases of schools in the AAC had their programs in the friend zone. We like you. We're going to hang out occasionally, but like we're not serious. Like we're not taking the next step. We're not going to marry you.
As a fan, if you went to Memphis, if you went to UCF, if you could walk through the tailgates and not have to worry about anything being thrown at you, no one was going to fight you outside of a rare instance where it's just somebody being an asshole because they're an asshole, not because they hate you, because you are there representing something that they've grown up hating their entire lives.
But see, I think in the Big 12, it's a little different because I think this group, once Oklahoma and Texas leave, and there's going to be bad blood.
I think there's a lot of respect.
Iowa State and Kansas State, but in general, like the fan bases just passionately support their university.
Yes.
There's no like it doesn't there doesn't need to be a gimmick or hype or whatever. Texas Tech and Oklahoma State and Kansas State and you keep going down the list. Maybe Kansas in football doesn't fit what I'm saying, but like for the most part, they have loud, passionate, caring fan bases. Where's that in the ACC?
Clemson.
The 7 schools that are looking for a way to get out, essentially?
No, actually. Because if you want to tell me that North Carolina has a very passionate football base, I think their passionate football base is roughly 5 years old.
You are insanely... I don't know how to quantify this, essentially. But Aaron, do you know the number 1 network in 24/7 sports?
North Carolina.
By membership.
For basketball.
That makes that hard to believe. Like there is a very passionate North Carolina football fan base.
And I understand that there's also supposedly this very passionate Syracuse football fandom.
They used to be great.
Okay. Cool.
Okay. So, but in general,
again,
at least what I'm saying about North Carolina is whether their football program is good or not, their fans care a lot.
Look, I think Brett McMurphy has it correct in the way that he actually ranked these 7 schools. He wrote them in an order, and I'm going to reread that order.
Okay.
Clemson, FSU, Miami, North Carolina State, Virginia, VTech. I think that's the pecking order for how passionate the school bases are.
I would just say North Carolina surprises me with how passionate their fan base is about both sports.
I guess I'm very curious as to what they're rooting for.
I don't know. I can't answer that, but I know the numbers from behind the scenes. North Carolina has a bigger site than Ohio State, Alabama.
Which is bananas.
It's crazy to me. Like, and they continuously.
I also wonder if you. I'm not going to mention any of the names, but if you look at any of the competitors and added all 3 up together between the 2 largest competitors with 24/7, I wonder where the chips would fall at that point. Because I know there are some schools that have bigger bases with other websites. Again,
but North Carolina is the biggest of all the team sites. There's nobody bigger than North Carolina's 24/7 site.
Again, I just wonder when you combine all 3 of the
North Carolina.
Okay, it's weird.
It's weird. I get the numbers every month, and I go, I still don't get this. I still don't understand it. But they're always number 1.
In any case,
that we've taken this off the tracks.
Let's get this back for the last couple minutes here.
Yeah.
What does this mean for the Big 12? Because people again are saying that I'll be shocked of those 3 if one dies in the next 6 months, if one dies in the next or comes close to death, to where you have to essentially become the American, what the American became, because there was no American.
I don't know, because the ACC's got so many teams.
And they still have a contract.
They have a grant of rights.
The Pac-12 does not have a contract.
Well, the Pac-12 they're doomed. Like, this is, as UC fans, we did not see the Big East demise happening like it did because we were too invested. But it was inevitable. The second that they turned down the $1 billion ESPN deal, it was inevitable. It was coming. The Sharks were circling. Everything was in motion at that point. This is the Pac-12 going through that process. Now, does the Pac-12 name survive? It probably does. You end up with 4, 5, 6 teams left. They take in teams from the Mountain West and whatever. They keep the name, but it's nothing
with the long historic colleges such as Oregon State, Washington State.
Right. So the Pac-12 survives, but there's no meat on the bones. Like, there's no meat on the bones in the Big East in basketball. It died the day Jay Wright retired. Now, maybe Danny Hurley brings it back, and UConn carries that banner for a couple of years.
Unless UConn ends up being poached by one of these other conferences.
Right. So that part of it is going to be fascinating.
From my understanding, the ACC had a pretty ironclad GOR. And just because
everybody's looking for a way out.
Sure. Why wouldn't you be? Honestly, like, it makes sense, but I know people are literally like, well, Florida State wants more money. They're going to get more money in their conference or they're leaving. How? What do you mean? They're not going to make money if they leave.
So I guess
13
potentially.
years.
Here's what I'm curious, Aaron. Here's what I'm curious. If those 7 teams, like if you've got a group of 7 working together, could they create, I think you kind of mentioned this earlier, could they create their own thing, which dissolves or like eliminates the ACC? And then they're on their own as a group of 7 to make their own new deal as a new conference, like you talked about, creating a new American kind of whatever.
They would be in courtrooms for months.
Well, there are going to be trigger numbers that if the ACC drops below this many teams, then the contract and the grant of rights. But I think we go back to a couple months ago that like these grant of rights deals were written so it's like one sheet of paper. Yeah. Like there's not a bunch of legalese.
Why would you?
Not a bunch of like you are locked in. You can't do shit. Can't do shit. Won't do shit. Sign here with an X. I don't know. Like it's fascinating that they're actually it's out there now that they're exploring it. And what happened at that ACC deal today? Nobody would talk about. Jim Phillips, the commissioner of the ACC, wouldn't talk about it. Nobody would open their mouth.
Your Mark did make a comment, and it was something along the lines of, "We are keeping a very close eye on all of this."
Yeah, which is what he should do.
Real G's move in silence.
Right. He gave it one of these. We'll see you tomorrow night. That's the Nightcap, brought to you by Galactic Fried Chicken. Pray for me. Right here on BearcatJournal.com.
See ya.